Starting in 2012, a small company named Radical Fish Games started development of a game called Crosscode. By 2015, it was available for funding on Indiegogo, and not long after that, it was in early access on Steam. Crosscode was officially released in September of 2018. Since I do not follow early access games in general, I had not heard about the game until after its release. My first thought when I saw the game was it was trying to capitalize on the retro gaming trend, using sprite graphics with little interesting gameplay. Yet thankfully I was wrong. I've played a lot of great games lately, yet Crosscode manages to stand out amongst them all, and it's that good of a game. The way the story starts feels like a standard anime trope of being an amnesiac in an MMO. The story seems standard, but actually it kinda gets you interested early on. I can't say much about the story without spoiling it for those who have not played it, but I will say that when the story opens up, it actually surprised me and ended up being incredibly interesting. Though my biggest complaint about the story overall is that there's a lot of filler in the main story. It slows down the main story a lot. But that's okay though, because the filler of the story is the MMO world, and they put a lot of care into building what felt like a real MMO in a single player game. The game doesn't always take itself seriously as well. There's a lot of great references and great moments of humor throughout the game. I even got to meet the Invisible Man. While the characters interact as they are real people playing a game, the conversations flow well and helps build the MMO world feel. Alright, I get it. You really love cows, but what the hell? They build a colorful and laid-back world, and then twist the game into some dark moments. There's a great blend of atmosphere. The regular NPCs in the game also feel very much as if they're MMO NPCs, from their bland conversations to their fetch quests. At first it felt like all the side quests would be annoying fetch quests and kill quests, but the game really builds on the side quests as well. The side quests and crosscodes were something that you will want to do. Each one of them get more and more interesting as the game progresses, and they are not always as they seem. Hell, if you skip the side quests, you'll never be able to help Goat Kid, and that would be sad. After all, Goat Kids is what it's all about in the end. Seriously though, follow that Goat Kid quest. I got a good laugh at the end of the quest. Goat Kid is an early example of a quest that starts off simple and then builds up. This theme is repeated several times throughout the game. And each of these quests get you something new. You can have a unique puzzle, you can even get something like a tower defense game, or you fight a boss. Well, here's one now. Defeat Cephisloth, the root of all evil. Alright, so we established the quests are interesting and the main story is building up to something great. But what about the gameplay? Well, let's start with the combat. It's an action RPG, so you have a melee attack which does a lot more damage, and an ability to throw balls which can be charged for a bouncing effect. Bouncing your balls comes in handy for a lot of situations, but we'll come back to that. You also get a shield to block enemy projectiles, but once you learn how to evade attacks with your dodge, you kinda stop using the shield. The game also has an interesting rank system, where the more you fight non-stop without a break in between, the higher your rank goes and the more loot you get. Throughout the game, you'll unlock different elements for your attacks, and each one of them, while equipped, will give you defense against that element, while it does extra damage or reduced damage to others. This, of course, is nothing new. However, the way they built it into the game makes it fast-paced and challenging. You can quickly switch between elements mid-fight in order to increase your element offense, or your elemental damage depending on what is needed. Add that to the fact that you do 3 quick dashes and have high mobility. It makes for a lot of fun and interesting situations. Some of the most fun combat in the game comes from the in-game player versus player battles. These are not actually against other players, but an MMO simulated player versus player battle. Alright. This is starting to become a little bit like video gameception. Combat in the game is so smooth, it's a lot of fun and feels really fresh. It's not groundbreaking, but it fits exactly what the game needs. The other interesting part of the game is the exploration. Every area has small hidden pathways that you can climb and jump across. You don't always need to explore the levels, but it's usually the only way to get the treasure chests. I'd say one of the flaws of the game is how many treasure chests were out there that have loot that was just not very exciting. They give you stuff you don't care about or equipment that was just not that great. However, finding these chests were so much fun that I ended up finding and looting them all. Finding your way through the map was a puzzle in itself, making treasure hunting actually fun. Now, speaking about the puzzles in this game, that's what really shines above all else. If you're not a fan of the top-down Zelda puzzles, then you might not like this game, because the puzzles are everywhere. You need to explore the town or area, figure out a jumping puzzle to get to certain platforms. Side quests, there's going to be a puzzle along the way to complete it. Then, of course, there is what feels like the strongest part of the game, the dungeons. Almost every room in the dungeons are a puzzle to move on to the next room. Occasionally, you do get a combat room, which more often than not, you need to use the skills you learn from the puzzles to defeat your enemies. Even the final bosses of each dungeon requires a sort of puzzle to figure out how to attack the enemy. It's not just pure skill, it will make you think as well. Also, the puzzles in the game are very well defined. You will always know what your objective is. There's no getting stuck trying to figure out what you missed. You just stare at the room trying to figure out how to hit a switch or bounce your ball at the right angle. Now this is where the charge attack really comes into effect. You charge your attack to be able to bounce the ball throughout the room. The level of puzzle ingenuity in Crosscode may be better than any game I have ever played before. It was that impressive immersive and fun. They really went above and beyond their design, and that's what makes this game so amazing. So in all, we have a very smooth game with an interesting story, great combat, and some of the best puzzles I've ever seen. All this adds up to some of the best games I've played recently. Take the formula that is well known and adds a ton of innovation to create something wonderful. There's so much depth in this game that it took me close to 70 hours to complete, as well as there's so much I left out of this quick video. From its cool character creation system, combat arts, and wonderful soundtrack, this video can go on for a long time. If you have yet to play Crosscode, I recommend you play it as soon as possible. It's just one of those games that would give a near perfect score for.